if we push play, now we can sit down and mix. And I think I've done a little bit of mixing, so we'll see some faders move around. But you can grab a fader and do your rides. And now we're in snapback, auto touch. So they'll snap back. And if I hit play again, we can see the faders moving around. So just like a real console, the automation works exactly like a real console. So in the center section, since we're in the analog domain, we have analog metering on our mix buses.
Excellent.
Very important. We also have LED meters for whatever's coming out of the monitor outputs,
right.
Full surround, and track buses 1 through 8, and all of the cue and effects buses.
Oh, that's nice.
Below the metering, we have oscillator and pink noise generator that can go out of any buses or monitor outputs. We have our talkback section, full talkback mic, listen mics, etc., just like on a big SSL console. And the added bonus of the talkback compressor, which everyone's hip to on the G series.
We have that fifth compressor, huh?
Yes. So we have our stereo bus compressor straight out of the G series console. We have our 2-channel dynamic section, compressor, limiter, and gate. We have our bus master outputs and our cue and effects master outputs. Below that, we have 4 stereo effects returns. So you can use them for reverb returns, more stems, no EQ, but full access to the stereo buses and Q sends. Q sends are right here. Just like on a K series, you can pick up pretty much any bus on the console, and there's patch points available if you have a patch bay to get into these. And they have a level and an AFL on the front panel as well. The TFT screen is used for pretty much everything else. You can control your automation modes from Pro Tools, your automation enables, all of your edit tools, anything that you would hit on the keyboard as a shortcut, you can have in this screen. You can also use the screen to control your plugins. The screen is also used for SSL Total Recall within the console, and it will save it back to your host computer as a MIDI dump. So it takes a snapshot of all of the channels, all the knobs, all the buttons on the channel, so you can recall the whole deal. The other major thing we have on the front panel in the center section is our monitor controls. Of course, volume pot, dim, cut, just like you'd have on a big console. And this knob is actually multifunctional. It controls the dim level, our monitor B level. Like on the big SSLs, you have a big pot and a little pot for the different speakers. Here, it's just a question of pushing a button. We have actually there's a headphone amp built into the console, and you can control that from here. And you can pick your speakers from over here. Normally you're on the main 5.1 speakers. We also have, of course, the alternate 5.1s, Mini A and Mini B, total of 4 sets of speakers.
Correct.
Over here we have our monitoring control as to what's coming out the speakers. Right. So we can listen to any of the buses. We have external A and B, just like on a 9K. External A as all the surround inputs. So that's how you'd monitor your surround mixes,
right.
Or your 5.1 outputs from your DVD player, SACD, etc. External B is all your stereo returns, CD player, tuner, whatnot. And you can also, just like on a K series, you can sum them all together. If you need to listen to a multitude of stems, if you're doing film, you can bring back your dialogue stem, your effects stem, etc. while you're mixing the music on here. So if you're a music guy, film guy, you can just turn off the dialogue, as simple as that. There's also, just like on any analog console, you have your solo clear from the center section.
Global type control?
Yes, that's just for the analog section only, not for Pro Tools. There's also a down mix over here, so if you're doing 5.1, you can do a quick stereo to fold down mix. We also have our master fader over here for the 2 stereo buses, and this control panel here will determine what the fader is doing and what we're doing to the different mix buses, to the record bus and the mix bus. As I was saying before, you can use your stereo bus compressor, you can use your 2 channel compressors on a mix bus if you like, if they're not being used anywhere else. There's also an external insert point that you can use whatever stereo processing you'd like on either stereo bus.
What about to bring in a sidecar or something like that?
There's a bus inject over here, indicated by the sigma, and you can just add whatever you want. So if you have another sidecar console, if you have 2 more inputs that you need to jam in there somewhere.
Could you put 2 SSLs together?
Absolutely, absolutely. And then if you want this fader to reflect what's on the record bus, you hold down the record button and the fader. So you can see that the fader can do 2 different buses at the same time. Since this is also controlling an MDAC, it's a digitally controlling fader, not an analog fader. And over here, we have our full transport control for your DAW, the typical tape machine functions. You can scroll around with the scroll buttons. You have all of your return to zero, ending, loop, quick punch buttons. All the things you would typically need a shortcut for on a keyboard are brought out for you at your right-hand control. You have a shuttle and scrub wheel. You have the numeric keypad, works just like the one on your keypad. So you can do memory locates, you can type in go-to numbers, whatever you'd like to do with your numeric keypad.
That's great.
And coming up here, we have the rest of our controllers that would substitute for your keyboard, for your QWERTY keyboard. All your modifiers, Shift, Option, Control, and Alt. Major functional buttons. You can suspend your automation. You can ready all your tracks. You can assign inputs, outputs, and aux sends from here. You can bring up your different control screens on your monitor. Your plug-in screen, your session status, your transport window, memory locates, mix, edit windows, etc. You can also, as we were talking about before, switch banks from over here, switch banks of faders within Pro Tools, either by a group of 24 or on an individual basis with the channel button. And the main button is the focus button. So now we're in, with this button out, with no light on, we are in DAW focus. So now we're looking at our Pro Tools rig in this case. And if you push it, it turns blue, and now we're looking at our analog faders. So I got a little session up here that I've been working on this morning. Basically, you know, mixing should be fun. We should sit down at this console and just work. You can just grab faders now. Instead of having to grab a mouse and move one thing at a time, we can go back to grabbing a handful of faders, or, you know, you can grab some faders. You can have two guys in there